Hey everybody, welcome back. This week I want to talk about limerence. It's a topic that has come up over and over again the last couple of months in my practice, and I thought I would just take a little bit of time just to talk about it. The word limerence first appeared in our vocabulary back in the 1970s when psychologist Dorothy Tenove wrote a book called Love and Limerence: The Experience of Being in Love. And after she interviewed more than 500 people in the late 60s and 70s on the subject of love, she decided that limerence was a period of excitement and intense emotions that can progress to some uncontrollable obsession for another person. Some of the features or characteristics that she observed were things like frequent intrusive thoughts about a potential sex partner, or an intense desire for reciprocation of an attraction. And then there was a sense of delight when sensing reciprocation, or despair when there was rejection or even disinterest. Also, there was some limerent feelings that she noticed when someone would just fantasize about their limerent objects or their affair partner. But those feelings are usually short-lived with just through fantasy. Many of my clients talk about constant intrusive thoughts. Everything is a reminder about the potential or actual love interest of the other. One of my clients recently said, "I can't turn it off. Concentrating on work is almost impossible." And when two people can express their limerent feelings to each other, even in secret, especially in secret sometimes, it can be surprisingly both delightful and torturous. I've had clients argue with me vehemently at times that what they feel is true love, but I don't think it is. And I'll get to that in just a minute. But first I want to talk a little bit about neuroscience. Hang in there with me. There's not a lot of specific research on limerence itself, but gleaning from what we know about addiction, love, and other emotions, we can better understand the mind-boggling nature of limerence and its origin in the brain. Often people get caught up in a limerent relationships and where they think they have found the perfect partner in their mind. They'll find themselves in this state of hyperarousal, which can include a faster heart rate, clammy palms, intrusive thoughts, excitement, and even abandoning their life as they know it for some sexual arousal. At this stage, norepinephrine is the transmitter leading the charge of limerence. It's also known for causing the fight-flight reaction in our body, but it can also trigger arousal and excitement. Limerence can be maddening and exhilarating all at the same time. Meeting with or just thinking about an affair partner can provide the same neurochemical reward, which is driven by dopamine. It's important to remember that our brains have evolved to allow us to discern between good, bad, pain, and pleasure, real or imagined. And it's complex, but our brains remember the good and pleasurable things, and we will seek them out. It doesn't care where it comes from. It wants that dopamine hit. We also need to consider and understand bonding. This is where Helen Fisher's research comes in. She's an anthropologist and a researcher, and now she's the chief science officer for Match.com. So I think she knows a little bit about bonding. But her research on neurochemicals solidified that oxytocin and vasopressin influence the bonding process, which ultimately will lead to mature love. I like the way Scott Peck talks about this in his classic book, The Road Less Traveled. Highly recommend you read it if you never have. He says that we start with infatuation or limerence. It's the feeling of falling in love, and in most relationships, that lasts from 4 to 6 months. And then we fall out of that, or we fall out of love. But then we return to love and we choose love. He says that's a mature love that is developed over time. One of the hallmark characteristics of mature love is the purpose of nurturing your own and another person's spiritual growth, development, and fulfillment. That doesn't necessarily mean religious. He goes on to say that the perception that we are falling in love is really just an illusion. He says that when a couple falls out of love, they may actually begin to really love. Real love does not have its roots in the feeling of love. It occurs in the context in which the feeling of love is lacking, yet we still act lovingly to the other person, even though we don't necessarily feel it. I think this is a really important point in distinguishing the transactional nature of limerence from true love, especially for those who rate emotional and spiritual nourishment above excitement and arousal. I'm not saying that those two things aren't important, but they're not everything, especially in this transactional world that we live in, that we find ourselves in these days. So let's go back to dopamine for a minute. Initially, dopamine gives us a bit of pleasure or a sense of calm, but then it can quickly turn around and push us to pursue a perceived reward because our brain is looking for a dopamine hit or a way to regulate it and get more of it. With all that going on, dopamine is not in any hurry to give up. So we frequently end up with an obsession to be with the affair partner or our limerent object. And the only thing that can satisfy that urge is the temporary relief of fantasizing or daydreaming about them or contacting them. And to make matters worse, there's reminders everywhere you turn around. And so then your dopamine circuits light up everywhere and you get a little hit again. Neuroscience can give us a good perspective on limerence and why it can be so challenging with its anticipation, reward, bonding, and uncertainty reinforcement cycle that is so easy to get caught up in and so hard to escape. I want to be clear that the neurochemical process of limerence is much more complex than I've just described here. It also includes testosterone and estrogen and other hormones and enzymes and neurotransmitters that are constantly feeding each other, and they change each other. And they play different roles in our bodies as well. So it's much more complex, but hopefully you begin to get a picture of the difficulty that people stuck in this cycle are experiencing. But I want to assure you there is a way of escape. It's not easy to overcome limerence by any means, but there are some tactics to help you take back control of your life. The first one, the most effective one, and the hardest one is no contact. Dorothy Tennant says that the best cure for limerence is no contact at all. It's time-tested strategy, and it also includes all online contact and stalking online as well. The no communication policy will lead to the vanishing of this obsession. And it's going to take time, but body chemistry does return to normal. Objectivity will return to normal. It might mean a move, a change in jobs, or even a new church. But please, please, please don't allow your brain to convince you that you can be friends with your affair partner or limerent object. That's just more torture, and it will not help. The other thing she talks about is good, solid self-care. Limerence is a significant stressor on your body and your brain. And what we know in times of stress, many of us seek comfort foods laden with sugar and salt and fat. They're so good. But a healthy diet that reduces or eliminates inflammation-causing foods can help stabilize your mood. Plenty of exercise and good sleep are fuel to help your body and brain recovery. And third is mental and emotional deprogramming. It's a useful approach to devalue the affair partner. It may not be the most honorable approach, but it is effective. I'm not suggesting that you crucify them, but instead of reminiscing on how wonderful they are, start to focus on some red flags or flaws that you saw in them or in the relationship. That could be really helpful. And last is accountability. We often need accountability, whether we're trying to stop an unhealthy habit, eat cleaner, or learn a new skill. Self-discipline may not be enough. It can be very helpful to disclose what you're struggling with and your plan to heal to a trusted friend or a therapist. This person needs to be somebody that will ask you tough questions, and they'll notice if you're not taking your recovery seriously, and they'll call you out on it. This person should be someone other than your spouse, but just ask for their support. So if you struggle with limerence or are in an emotionally entangled relationship, I'd highly encourage you to consider Hope for Healing. It's a safe place for you to do your work necessary to understand the situation that you find yourself in and heal and discover a way out of the darkness, of the hopelessness, and of the despair. So thanks so much for joining me. It's always good to be with you, and I'll see you again soon.